Hey everyone, it's Dana here with Love Soul the Flowers, and we are here for a late night tutorial. And this is just something that everybody makes, and we are just gonna give you an easy way to do it. So I'll wait for some people to get on, and then we will discuss what we're making, how we're making it, and supplies needed, and get to it. So we are still having our sale up to 70% off, and that is on our website, lovesoultheflowers.com. Our videos, once they are, after they're live and once they're recorded, they do go on to our YouTube channel. It's easier to find things on the YouTube channel, especially if you're subscribing to that, and that is youtube.com/lovesoultheflowers. And finally, if you have not joined our community group where you can share photos or ask questions or learn different things from other crafters or business ladies or brides, join that. It's facebook.com/groups/lovesoultheflowers. And that, hey Tracy, that will give you, access to other people who are kind of right where you are. If you're either a beginning bride or if you are someone who's been in the business for years, that group has got kind of all of it. So make sure you join that and see what everybody is doing. Tonight I'm calling this Easy 1, 2, 3 Wreath. So wreaths are very big if you do home decor, but they're also becoming kind of a big deal even in weddings, for the doors of weddings and things like that, but also as like a greenery wreath for a lantern or a pillar candle. So this can be made for the door or for the table, for a centerpiece, any of that kind of stuff. So what we are making today, again, is going to be the easiest way to do it. So again, if you're a bride or if you're just starting and you don't want to put so much time, effort, and money into things, this is kind of the easiest way to do it. It's not cheating, but it is helping you out in the process. What we're gonna do first for our Easy 1, 2, 3 wreath is we are going to buy, now again, you're gonna watch your prices because you don't want to make it so expensive that no one can pay for it. You don't want to make it more expensive where it doesn't make it worth it for you either. But you're going to buy a wreath that's already made with greenery. Now this one is from Amazon. It has this in the back, and it already had the greenery attached to it. So I'm not having to buy a million stems of greenery in order to complete it. And that's sometimes what really costs the most, is filling it with greenery. Now again, this could be for a table or for a door. But the first step, again, this is going to be Easy 1, 2, 3 wreath. The first step is buying a greenery wreath already assembled. They have plenty of different styles. There's, hi Laura, there's lamb's ear, there's eucalyptus. You can find, there's ivy, there's Christmas ones. So just find on Amazon something that fits in the price. Obviously something that's the size that you're wanting. But even this one was a little bit smaller. And what I did is I took up a garland that had eucalyptus in it, and I actually cut up a garland and I added greenery to make it a little bit wider and a little bit fuller. Okay, so your first step is going to be buying one that already has greenery on it, ready to go, and adding some greeneries that match your theme just to either fluff it up. Now, if you find one that's a good price with already fluffed up and nice and big and all that stuff, you won't have to add greenery. But this one was just a little bit small. I just wanted it a little bit wider. So I just took pieces of garland and chopped it up and glued it on the outside. Now, whenever you're gluing into this, first off, if you really want strong glue, you can use Gorilla Glue sticks. But you could also just make sure that when you stick it in, you're sealing it, like making a little sandwich with the silk leaves, because the silk leaves, when they're squeezed with hot glue, they are there for like ever, because the hot glue actually like absorbs into the cloth of it. So they'll stick forever. They're not going to go anywhere. So that's what I did. After I cut up little pieces to make it a little bit wider, I stuck it in and I made sure I sealed it with other silk leaves that were already in the wreath. So again, this is a quick and easy, and right now with our flowers being up to 70% off, you can get your flowers cheap, dye them any colors, and make a wreath really super easy. Again, this is what I do, especially when I'm doing weddings. I don't want to buy 3 million stems. Like, look at this greenery. think about how many stems of greenery you would have to do if you're making just one of these. And if you're making, let's say 20 for 20 tables, that's gonna be a lot of greenery that you're gonna need to buy. And it gets kind of crazy and it takes a long time. So it's very easy just to buy one that's already made. Again, this is what this one came on. There's all different styles. And again, you can zhuzh it up even with leftover greenery that you have from other projects. Even if it's not on a stem, you can fill it in to make it nice and thick and ready to go. So that's step one, okay? Easy, again, we're calling this easy. 1, 2, 3. Number one, buy something with greenery, and you can add your own greenery to fluff it up if it needs it. This was not very expensive of a starter, but make sure you're watching your costs. You don't want to buy, obviously, a $90 greenery wreath and then add some flowers unless you're planning on selling it for a lot more. Again, this way is much easier for things like lantern and candle holders, because usually if you're doing that, you're doing it for many tables and you're just trying to save time even. So I've got some flowers here. The theme colors for this one is some teals and aquas, and some greens and some grays, and some whites. So I'm gonna just pull out my flowers here. And what I do is I like, when I'm going all the way around, now you don't have to have your flowers go all the way around. They can just go on one side, up the one side a little asymmetrically. But you can also, not necessarily symmetrically, but spread them out around the circle. And I like to be able to do one color at a time when I do it that way, just to make sure that I have spread them evenly. So I'm taking all of my flowers out right now, and I've got them split up here where I can see them by color. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take each color, hi Carla, I'm gonna take each color and I'm gonna do one color at a time, and I'm gonna make sure that I evenly disperse among my whole wreath, okay? So this is step number 2. Number 1 was getting the greenery. Number 2 is spreading my flowers out so that it's not heavy with one color on one side, so it's kind of spread. Again, I don't do symmetrical, but I do make sure it's balanced with color. So I've got this color, and what we want to do is use a whole lot of glue. Make sure that you're sticking it directly to the silk greenery. Some people stem them. I do not find that necessary if you're finding a good piece of silk greenery here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put them there, and we're gonna just kind of spread it without, and then we're gonna kind of fix our flowers so that they're kind of bundled, okay? You're not gonna wanna just put a flower, one flower around a circle and just make a loop. You want it to have an interesting look. So you're gonna put some on their side, some tucked in underneath, and you're gonna make a little bit more of an interest by not just putting it in a circle. So I have 2 more of these ones. So again, I'm just gonna kind of spread it where they are not right next to each other, just so that this color can reach all the different sides of it and it be a little more balanced. So let me find, and again, I'm not doing symmetrical. I'm not gonna do the same design around, but you've got to start somewhere. And by doing it this way, you kind of set the stage for building onto these little bundles. So these were kind of my biggest flowers, so I thought, let me start with those, okay? So here we've got these, and that's kind of the basis of starting. And now we're gonna start tucking around where we've started. Again, I do one color at a time so that I spread it out. So I've got 3 of these guys too. And I'm actually gonna not, because these are big, the little ones should kind of get tucked in. I'm gonna actually put these in the opposite spots. And then that's when we're gonna start with our littler flowers, building bundles. So sometimes my glue gun fights me, but you want a lot of glue. So make sure that we're really scooping that on, especially if these are gonna be an outside wreath. Okay, definitely wanna have a lot of glue. Now, if you are doing an outside wreath, I always use a polyacrylic. It's like in a spray paint can. It's a polyacrylic spray that you can, I just hose the whole thing down. I put it over the greenery and everything. And I make sure that everything is sealed. Now, our flowers, they're not waterproof, but the sealant will make them a little bit resistant, you know, to any mold or anything like that if they get wet. It'll keep them from getting too wet, but you don't want to have sola flowers ever in direct elements. You want them to be at least under a cupboard, so even if it sprays a little bit, they can dry out, but you don't want them to actually get wet. Okay, so here I've got my basis, and this is where I'm gonna have my littler guys. So I've got some gray, I've got some green succulents, I've got some other blues, and now I'm just gonna start tucking in. So again, look, I'm putting them a little bit to the side. Again, I don't just want one circle of flowers in a line. I want to build up the wreath. Let me make sure I'm plugged in good because this glue gun is fighting me. It's hot, but it's just fighting me because sometimes with these little glue guns, they don't go as fast as you want them to when you're trying to squeeze a whole lot of glue on them. So sometimes you just gotta force it through. Okay, so I'm just going to put these a little bit off to the side, and we're gonna start just building it to be where it's full of flowers and not just lined with flowers. Again, you can do it where it's just on one side. You don't have to do it where you go all the way around your circle. Obviously, if you're using it for a centerpiece, you're gonna want to go around that whole circle because it might look a little bit weird on one side. But if you're hanging it on your door, you don't necessarily have to cover the whole thing with flowers. Now again, I'm not doing it necessarily symmetrical or identical, but I am making sure that things are being spread around. So next I'm gonna do my gray. Okay, so this customer asked me for aquas and grays. So I did a nice light gray. And the same thing, I wanna make sure that I'm spreading the colors so that they're not all shoved in one place. Yeah, the glue guns are really quite annoying. Some of the hotter ones, I actually got like a really fancy expensive one at the Home Depot, and it lasted me literally 5 hours and it went kaput. And I just think that I use a glue gun, sometimes it's on for 10 hours a day. Someone told me buy multiple ones and just keep unplugging one and replugging another. That probably is the smartest move because sometimes I work for 10 hours straight, so my glue gun, the triggers, they break so easily. So I don't know. If anyone has a good glue gun that makes it where you're squirting a lot, pulling the trigger for like 10 hours, and it didn't die, let me know. Hi, Tina. So again, we're just loading these up. And again, I'm making it bundled as opposed to just a straight line of flowers. So here's what we've got so far, as you can see. My white's gonna be my last so that I can pop it in and give a little bit of brightness to it. I've got these little guys. Let me see if I wanna use these. I've got this color too that I'm gonna stick in there. And then I do have some bigger succulents, and I'm not putting those in there right this yet because I wanna see kind of where I have space for those. But I'm gonna just hose it down with glue. Hi. Well, hello from New Jersey. We're not so far from each other. All right. Again, balance is key when you're doing a wreath all the way around. You wanted to make sure that you don't have too many clumps of one color somewhere. And again, I don't necessarily do it symmetrical. I just make sure that we're balanced. And I think that that's what's really important. So as you can see with my glue gun, it's a pain in the booty because I've got to constantly feed it through because it doesn't want to go as fast as I want to go. Isn't that how it always is? But we're gonna make it. You do use a lot of glue for these things. Make sure you have a million glue sticks before you start this project because you do want to really, really, really hose these suckers down because, you know, if it's going to be in your door, it's going to be abused a little bit. And when I push it down in there, I make sure that I get contact with, that's funny, I can't get contact with the silk. Now, let me just show you, this is a good example of something too. So see this guy? He's really secure to the greenery, but it's floppy. It's a piece of floppy. So what I'm gonna do is actually glue it to the flower as well. And that will keep it, I just flipped my glue stick. That will also keep it extra secure where it goes. So I'm gonna actually, sometimes if it's floppy on a piece of greenery that's floppy, I'm gonna glue it to its neighbor, and that way they stick together. Okay. Let me see. I'm gonna add a few more of this. I'm gonna try to squeeze my succulents in, and then I'm gonna top it with the white, which is gonna brighten the whole thing up. So when you do color, you're definitely gonna wanna make sure, again, that you're dispersed. I'm actually gonna flip it so I can see it from all point of views. That's another thing, if you're building it, looking at only at it in one point of view, sometimes you miss the sides of things a little bit because you think you're reaching the side, but, well, that's what I'm saying, Tracy, but then they're on for that long anyway, and I usually do actually. So I usually have about 3 guns, and they do rest, but then they're on all day, so then they end up dying on me anyway. It's a mess. Okay. So here's what I've got so far. And again, I am gonna add some white into thingy, but I also have got my favorite flower, especially for a succulent, the Obsession. And I'm gonna feed those in here now as well. So I'm gonna put my hand-painted Obsessions in here. I actually did not hand paint these. My worker, Stephanie, she's the one who painted these, but they are hand dipped. So if you're looking at them wondering how I did those, they are hand dipped into a lighter color and then rotated into a darker color on the outside. So I'm gonna just make sure that I have a spot for these guys before I put my white in, and then our step 2 will be over, and then we just have one more step. But as you can see, sometimes people, you know, it takes a long time to make a wreath if you're doing it from the very, 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 very beginning of making this, and who has time for that? I know I don't really, but, so any type of shortcut that still is beautiful and still takes design and craftsmanship works for me. So I'm gonna stick this in here. Again, making sure I distribute it. Again, I don't do symmetrical, but you can do symmetrical, but I don't suggest just making a ring of flowers. I do suggest putting some on their sides, making little bundles, and making sure you're filling places. Making sure too that your glue is 100% stuck on silk, because that fabric of the silk absorbs the glue, and it's like, even if you wanted to take it apart, you couldn't. Trust me, I've tried to take off something if I thought, oh, I don't like it. It never comes off, you just have to cut it. So, my poor gun is crying. Just making sure I don't lose plugs, but I didn't. It's just not catching up, so. So, we just have to be patient. I hate being patient for my glue gun. I'm like, I'm so much faster than my gun. This is like a daily fight, but it's all a part of the craft world. We all understand each other, right? That's another reason why too, to join that community group because we really do all understand each other. All the little funny things. I feel like we are all built in with some inside jokes, you know, about burns and things like that. So, ooh. Huh. I tried like even one of the bigger ones that had high temperature, and I just was burning myself so badly because even with this one, I burned myself, but my skin's kind of used to it enough that it doesn't like, it doesn't kill me every time. But I used a high temperature gun, big gun. Again, it broke in one day. The trigger broke in one day, but I had so many burns. I had literally a Band-Aid on every finger. And then I like wrapped them on purpose because I was like, well, this doesn't feel good. so I'm adding my white now. But yeah, like the high temperature one. This is supposed to be a high temperature, but it's mini. So I don't feel like it really does get as hot as some of those fancier ones. Because some of those are so hot, they like blister like on contact. And I'm not about that life because I already burn myself a lot because I try to move fast. And there's a lot of things I have to touch actually, like, you know, twine if you're wrapping boutonnieres or something like that. And so I do not need something super duper hot because, because that would just be, I literally had blisters on my hand from one stupid gun, but it broke anyway. After all that, I thought the high temperature, maybe it would move faster, and I broke the trigger from pulling it too much in one day. I spent like whatever amount of money it was to buy it. It wasn't like a huge thing. It was like 20 bucks or whatever, but you know, these little guys are only like $3. But I broke the trigger in like a second. All right, so I just want to make sure I'm spreading these guys, and then I have a few more white in case I need a little bit more brightness. Let's see. Just rotate it. Yeah, right? That's on you, Tracy. You could do that. If you do it, I will buy it. I will buy it. Because this is crazy. This is my least favorite part, but let's see. Yeah, so Ryobi was one that I had tried and burnt myself so bad. But also I found that it dripped a lot. And I was wasting so much glue because I do have the Ryobi battery and like Ryobi tools. So I thought I would try it, but I did burn myself like a little too much. All right, so I'm gonna add these last white ones in just to brighten it up. And then we're gonna be on step 3. A lot of it, because it drips out. Yeah, it drips like crazy. And then you're like soaking up all the drip stuff, and I don't know, one of us has to invent. Yeah, one of us has to invent something that works that we all can use. That would be $1 million thing if one of us can come up with one that actually works well. Okay, so I'm squeezing these guys in. I'm making it nice and tight. If you want to, you know, use different styles of flowers in one color, that could get a little tricky to separate it. So what I always do is if I pick one color, the same flower gets in it every time, so that all I have to do is focus on separating colors, not, oh, that's white right there. Just kidding, I have a white one right there. Let's see. Let's put this over here. Yeah, so that way you don't color block by trying to separate a style of flower. Instead, you just focus on separating your colors. So I always do that also just to keep, you know, what's the word? What's the word I'm trying to think of? Like, not balance, you know, consistency. That's the word I'm thinking about. You can be consistent on your flowers if you do it that way, where one flower, like if I'm doing gray, I do carnations. If I'm doing, you know, the blue, I do a New Beauty. If I'm doing that way, I can easily separate it. Yeah, I actually have this thing that someone had bought me from Etsy that catches the drips. But I just don't want to waste the glue because I already spent $1 million in glue as it is. But I guess that's just part of it. Okay, so I'm adding my last raw flower here. And so step one, again, was buying a greenery wreath and adding extra greenery if you need it. Again, this is supposed to be easy 1, 2, 3 wreath. This is not, let me build it from scratch because, you know, I want to design every inch of it and I want it to be all mine. This is, listen, I got to pump out 20 centerpieces, or I got to do a craft show and I don't have the time, or I don't have the money to buy 1 million stems of different kinds. That's what this is for. So this makes it super duper easy. You can fluff out this stuff. Okay. So here's what step 2 looked like in terms of adding flowers. Again, just trying to fluff up. Oh, that leaf was going on. A little fluffed up here. Okay. Making sure my greenery is kind of like this guy's sticking out maybe a little bit too much. So I might add him over here. So after you get your flowers, make sure that your greenery is fluffed up before you go to your final step. Just because you don't want to add fillers on top of greenery that's not in the right spot. So here I've got this. And I'm gonna start with some blue Caspia here. I'm not gonna do a lot of it. I'm just gonna do a couple little peaks. And I'm using fillers that aren't, like, I don't wanna be, her color scheme was aquas and grays and obviously the whites. But I don't wanna use those colors as my fillers. I want some contrast because then it will just look so monochromatic that nothing really pops. So that's why I'm going with this darker blue Caspia here. You can find Caspia and fillers and things like that on Love Sola flowers. I don't know what's in stock for Caspia because I do know it is a seasonal item when we can get it from farmers. But if you haven't tried Caspia, just a thing to say out loud, it is beautiful. I use it for so many things, but it can be a little stinky. And some people are more sensitive, I think, to stinky plants than other people because honestly, it doesn't really bother me and I don't know if I'm just so used to it. But it could smell a little bit fishy. That's what some people describe it as, but it's a plant. So we can't change the smell of it. You know, when you buy it, you can't complain about the smell because it's a plant. You know, you can't make a rose smell different than a rose or whatever. So the same way as that, this just has a smell because it is an organic plant. So what we suggest is first taking it out of the plastic and airing it out. And if that doesn't take away enough smell for you, then you can just spray it with Febreze or put essential oils near it. Because again, if you haven't tried it, I use it all the time. So the stinkiness does not keep me away. And honestly, again, I'm not that sensitive to it, but some people are super sensitive to it. And it's just something that they can't get over. So just make sure you're aware of that when you order it, that it does sometimes have a smell, but most of the time it fades away pretty quickly. I don't think most people say that it's horrible smelling like the life of the plant there. So just so you know. All right, so I'm just feeding this within my bundles. And again, when I spray it with the sealant, if I'm putting this outside, I just spray all the fillers too. I just literally go over the entire wreath. So, all right. Let me just finish up. Again, I just use one filler at a time and go around my circle. I don't really have any necessarily rhyme or reason where I put it, just kind of in gaps. And again, I want to stay balanced. I want to make sure that it's not all on the inside or all on the outside. So I tend to alternate, you know, from the inside to the outside. We're almost around the whole circle here. And then Laura, I don't know actually. I don't know about sales ahead of time. But it sounds like something that Love Sola would do. You know, sales are a big deal for us. We try to give you guys the cheapest prices a lot, obviously. So I would definitely check in for that. But I don't know about sales ahead of time. That's all Sultan. He's all the computer stuff. So, but I do know that he always sends an email. If it's a really big deal, he'll send a text as well so no one misses it. So if you're not signed up to hear about things, and you don't check your Facebook, you know, frequently or anything like that, you know, make sure you sign up for emails or texts so that you know when it goes on. So I'm just adding this blue or Caspia around. Again, I picked not the same shades as the flowers because you want to build contrast as opposed to everything being, so the flowers obviously are a little matchy because it's just tones of aqua, but I'm trying to build contrast by making sure my fillers stand out, okay? So the lighting's not great. It's probably hard for you to see it, but it is there. I'm gonna use our faux lily of the valley that we started selling, and I'm actually deconstructing it. I'm gonna pop off the heads of the flowers, and I'm gonna use this as fillers. So I always like to mix faux and real. It's just something I love to do. So I'm gonna just pop these little lily of the valleys. On our website, you can go directly to our fillers by doing the drop-down box on the side, and you can click either artificial or preserved/dried. So if you are looking for something specific, it's kind of easy because it's split up by category, either real or fake. So I'm just gonna pop these in, these little bells. We did try to add, you know, some of these faux fillers that look more like little flowers because, you know, you can't have wood in something so teeny tiny. And so we tried to be able to kind of give you a filler of these little flowers so you don't have to go anywhere else looking for them. So I'm just popping these guys in. They kind of look like baby's breath when you pop them like this, when you take them off their stem. It's cute. Again, bringing some brightness to it. It's always nice to have white when you have such a color-filled piece, like a wreath that's going all the way around. I love wreaths that are just raw and skin flowers. Personally, I think it's so beautiful just to see those, but you know, with seasons and stuff like that, a lot of people want wreaths that either match the season or match their door. I don't know what color all your doors are, but I live in a townhouse complex, so everybody's doors were white. So I ended up painting mine a farmhouse blue. So I feel like it did change how I look at wreaths colors. Like I don't just go by the season. I go by like the color of my door plus the season. So like now that it's a farmhouse blue, you know, my fall colors change a little bit different than what I would if it wasn't. So I don't know if you guys have, you know, like red doors, because, you know, certain colors clash with that. So that's something to think about if you're making your own wreath, is like, yeah, does it match the season, but does it also match the color of your door? Because that changes things too. Yeah, this is fun for a little bit different of a look than baby's breath. You know, it fills it. It looks like an open bloom. So that's kind of fun. They are plastic. They're not silk. I think, I'm thinking it would be very hard to make a faux lily of the valley in silk. I'm not even sure if that would be made, but, because how could you get like a little thing like that? I don't know. But they are plastic. So, you know, be aware. But A lot of times too, when you're doing a wreath or something outside, it's better to use these plastic things because the heat doesn't get to them, the sun doesn't get to them, the rain doesn't get to them. Some of the drieds and preserves, as well as silks, you know, if you do get them wet, if a storm comes and it gets wet, even if you didn't want it to, you know, you do have to make sure you dry it out. But when you have plastics, they're perfect for outdoors. So if it's going outdoors, I do suggest some of these plastic fillers. Sometimes people are afraid of using plastics, that it's gonna look fake and stuff, but you know, you just have to also realize your environment and, you know, understand that not everything could be, you know, these aren't real, they're lasting forever. So sometimes plastic is just plastic, but it can still be beautiful. They photograph beautiful, so if you're getting married and you're afraid to use plastic at all, I promise you that if you have a professional photographer, that plastic will not look plastic. It will not look cheap or anything like that. These little guys, when they're photographed, look beautiful. But I know some people are afraid of the plastics, but I am not. I use plastic a lot for this kind of thing, or things that, you know, obviously silk or wood can't create. And as long as you don't just, you know, completely cover everything in plastic, it usually is so, you know, just little bits that it doesn't really affect your overall look. So, and plastic, you can bite it and trim this thing without using a scissor. I don't suggest that, but sometimes to save time and energy, that is what we do. Okay, so now you can see I have my glue blobs and webs that I gotta fix. So I'm just gonna hit it with either a heat gun or a hair dryer on hot, and that will dissolve all my little glue strings, because with a wreath, you're going back and forth. Sometimes you make this entire, I don't know, cotton candy thing of webs of glue. So, as you can see, those little lily of the valleys really bring a lot to it. And again, you can go around now that your flowers are in and just adjust your greenery. Make sure if something's sticking out a little too far, you trim it, because obviously you want it to be a beautiful circle. Again, you can hang this on your door, or you can leave it on the table with a pillar candle, or a lantern. You just want to make sure that your hole is wide enough when you look on Amazon for one of these things, that your hole is wide enough to fit whatever you got going on in there. So this is that. This is it. So easy way to make a wreath, okay? Very easy, because you're not really having to worry about the greenery and all that kind of stuff. So you're gonna buy one wreath. Again, look for something cheap, because again, you can use greenery that you've left over and things to feed into it to plump it up, if it's not as full as you would like it. So that was step 1. Step 2, adding your flowers. And then step 3, adding some fun fillers to give some contrast and texture. And again, I like these for table centerpieces, but certainly obviously wreaths for doors, inside and outside, or for walls. A lot of people put these, you know, above the fireplace in the center of the mantle, or, you know, little mini ones on either side of a mantle or something like that. So there's so much to do with wreaths. So if you haven't made one, hopefully this makes it easy enough that you're not scared to try one. I know that sometimes some of these things are daunting when you look at the whole project and you're like, I don't know where to start. And then you're like, oh wait, that was so easy. That took me only whatever amount of time. You know, wreaths take a long time if you're gonna fill them a lot. But again, if you're not starting from literally ground zero, it does save a lot of time. So this is that. And you can do hooks. You can either put a zip tie here to make a little hook to hang on like a nail, or you could just use those over the door hooks for that. And you don't have to worry about the backs of these too. So that's another positive about buying the ones that are already made, because they usually have at least a somewhat finished look on the back. So that is that. All right, everyone. We are going to do another tutorial this week. So there's going to be 2 this week to make up for last week. And I think I have a little tin that I'm going to make. We've done arrangements in tins before, but I do realize some people don't want to scroll back a couple years. And so we're just going to do some of the basic things too. And then we're going to start kind of Halloween and fall and all those good fun things. But we are going to do a tin on our next one. We are also going to be doing the floating teacups soon. And I think I'm just gonna come up with some more ideas. If you have any ideas of what you want to see in tutorials, please put that in our community group so that I make a list of things that you guys really wanna see. So that's it. All right, everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful night. I want to see your wreaths, so if you make a wreath, please post it in our group. We love to see what you guys do with our tutorials. All right, everyone, have a good one.